So it's Spa Thursday, media day's now over. Luckily, the weather's held out today. I can see a little bit of blue sky even, so it's pretty good for Spa. Pretty busy day actually. Back to back, sometimes the news can get a bit slow and boring, but it started quite early this morning. Esteban Ocon finally signed his deal with Haas. Well, finally announced. I think we knew it was coming, so just when it got announced. I think you spoke to him earlier on.
I did, yes. I think he was... He's been, let's be honest, it's not been the easiest season for him. So I think he's kind of struggled a little bit. He's been very disappointed with Alpine this season. And I think the whole team has, to be honest with you. But he seemed really sort of rejuvenated by this signing. He's very, very excited to get to work with the team. And I think one of the things he cited was the fact that when Ayao Komatsu had come to him with the idea of, I want you to be on my team, he was really taken on board by the plans. I think he was, shown quite a lot of what was going on, the plans that Komatsu has for the team, and that's something he wanted to be on board with. And he said, he's used to working with smaller teams, like his Force India days and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a very relatively natural fit for him. But the other thing as well is he's got Oliver Behrman as his teammate next season. And he said, well, this is the first time in my career that I'm the veteran in the team now. He's always been either the same age as Gasly now or the younger driver, and now this is his chance to lead the team. So he says Behrman's not going to need too much advice from him. But yeah, he seemed very, 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 very pumped for his new role. And I think Haas is looking forward to having him on board as well.
Excellent. Obviously, one of the big talking points that remains since Hungary Sunday night was the team orders situation. Rights and wrongs and controversies, and could it be handled, could not be handled. I spoke to Lando earlier. It's quite interesting actually, because you weren't sure, because sometimes these teams and drivers come out of controversies. I say it's been talked about behind closed doors, it's all been settled. I asked him, could things have been done differently? And he was absolutely adamant, yes, they could have been, from both the team's perspective, but he said most importantly from mine, he felt that when the order came, he should have done it immediately, because it would have allowed him to overtake Oscar again, which shows they were racing, which hadn't been clarified before. But also, he said he wasn't too proud either that, it overshadowed Piastri's first win, overshadowed the McLaren 1-2 for the team, taken away what should have been a joyous celebration, and the headlines were all about something else. So he was quite, I wouldn't say downbeat, but it was very reflective, Lando. Were you surprised when you saw those comments?
I sort of was and I wasn't, but because, as you know, like Norris is... behind the wheel, he's a fierce competitor, and then out of it, give him a few days to reflect. And it's kind of a case of, well, actually, he doesn't want to be in the sort of firing line. He doesn't want to be in that kind of limelight, let's say. So I'm not surprised. He's already walked back on a few comments earlier this season. How about from your perspective? What did you kind of think of it? No,
I thought it was very, very honest and open as the team's been. I think as you dug into what happened last weekend, because on Sunday night when Andrea Stella explained, we did it because we were protecting undercuts and stuff. I thought, that sounds like a nonsense explanation. But when you dug into it, actually was correct that Lando was under threat from Lewis. Oscar and Lando were both under threat from Max if he could have made that stop work. So it was a very difficult situation for both of them. But I think they've kind of learned their lesson. They've made the changes, and it's coming on through now. I think the other talking point is you and I were walking here. We saw Max Verstappen speaking to his engineer, GP, down by the trucks. So it's been quite interesting because Max got some heat last weekend for very aggressive remarks and comments on the radio. Max's session earlier on was he was quite feisty, saying, I'm fighting for a win. The team let me down strategy. The upgrades weren't working. I want to win. This is how we deal with it. I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to win. So it's just very interesting. But I think, from my understanding, there's a team meeting as well in the motorhome tonight. So I think there'll be a bit of maybe modified behaviour in the future, shall we say. And obviously Checo Perez's future still remains up there. You were at the Checo session. What was he saying today?
He's still bullish as he ever was, 100% guaranteed. He says that this is not going to be his last race for Red Bull. And I think he's kind of stuck to that line. I don't think he believes that it's going to be his last Red Bull race. And he was quite adamant that they brought a few things this weekend. He wouldn't elaborate on what, but this was going to improve the car and give him a little bit more feeling with what he's got, which I think, let's be honest, it's been kind of his main problem, really. Towards the start of the season, the car starts in a certain way, relatively benign handling, and then it gets to a point where it develops away from him. He loses confidence, then that cycle kind of happens. And that's one way of looking at it. Perhaps he just gets his confidence knocked by being beaten by Max week in, week out.
So there's been two talking points as well this week, post-Hungary. Both happened to me. I mean, I've got a bit of a history in Formula One of big stuff happening when I'm travelling. Normally I'm on a plane, it's driver announcements, but this time I was on a train from Vienna to Cologne. Two big things happening. One, Alpine. Obviously we had the story about Alpine and Mercedes. Deal looks now very close. Suspension, gearbox, engine for 26. Could even happen in 25. Distinct possibility of that. So a bit more news on the Alpine team this weekend as well from the paddock today. It appears that there'll be also some change of team management is likely. Bruno Famin is set to maybe depart this summer. And Oliver Oakes, high-tech F2, F3 boss, should be coming in. Don't think anything's official. There was no statement from the team. Nothing confirmed yet, but that's what we understand is happening. And also Audi, big change this week. They put a statement out when I was on the train that Mattia Binotto, the former Ferrari team principal, is coming in. I was quite shocked when it came in. There's not many press releases I open and go, wow. But a big change there. And it obviously has an impact on the driver market as well. I've been chasing Carlos Sainz. Binotto worked with Sainz at Ferrari. So there could be some implications there. How do you see that scenario panning out?
Well, it's been quite interesting because I went to both media sessions for both the current Sauber drivers. The show was actually quite, I'm not going to say forceful, but he was quite steadfast in his belief that all of this discussion about Audi and all of the kind of effort put into the project and all of this changing in personnel, it's really not helped their current form. And I think that's obviously reflective in the results. They haven't been making a great deal of progress. And he says, that's because of that. All of the eggs are in the 2026 basket and they're not really doing a whole lot now. And I suppose when it's 2026, these regulations aren't really going to matter. So to them, it doesn't really make much odds. Obviously, they probably want to look good on track, but ultimately, this short-term progress isn't really what they need. With regards to Binotto, I think it's a really interesting signing, actually, because what you had Andreas Seidl on one side, and then you had Audi's own Oliver Hoffmann, and talks of a clash between them. So the team has just decided, okay, well, let's out with the old and in with the new. And Binotto knows Formula One, was with Ferrari for decades, let's say, in various different roles. So he knows what he's doing. He knows how to run an engine operation, which is probably what Audi wants, a little bit more expertise, but also knows how to run a race team as well. So obviously the links are there with Sainz, having worked with him before. But he might be a sort of good factor to pull drivers that might not necessarily have wanted to come to the team before. So I think it's an interesting move. Whether it works, I guess we'll only find out then. But I think very interesting few days, certainly.
We've talked a lot about off-track stuff, but we're here at Spa. Obviously on-track matters. Most important question, what's the weather forecast?
Weather. I was going to tell everybody about how I've eaten my own body weight in waffles, but okay, weather. Well, it's currently dry, as you can see. We're not wearing coats. Tomorrow we might be. We're expecting some overnight rain. I think it will ease up at some point and then it will start again for the practice sessions. Saturday, I feel like Carol Kirkwood here. Saturday, dry FP3, rainy qualifying, and then all day dry Sunday. So that's what the forecast is now. As ever, this can be very dynamic and change. So, but that's what we can expect going into this weekend.
And in terms of form guide, obviously Verstappen's facing an engine penalty. They won't confirm it till it's official and he goes out the pit lane with the new parts. But it's happening. So he's going to be on the back foot this weekend. McLaren's been strong. Fast tracks, slow tracks, hot tracks, wet tracks, cold tracks, doesn't really matter. It's quick. Is it another McLaren 1-2 nailed on?
I don't think it's necessarily nailed on. And we're expecting the temperatures to be quite cool as well. So that should help Mercedes a little bit. Ferrari's a little bit worried because there's quite a lot of high-speed corners here. They're not too sure about that new update they brought to Hungary. Haven't really had the chance to test it out properly. So this will be the real litmus test for it. But you can't really count Red Bull out. And the last 2 years, Verstappen's taken an engine penalty here and then just soared through the field and gone and won. So he has to be a factor, surely. What do you think? Do you reckon it's still in it?
I think it's going to be harder to come through this year. I think the Red Bull's advantage over everyone else has been negated quite a lot. I think it's going to be harder to overtake, harder to get in the kind of find any clean air, it'd be dirty air. So I think it's going to be a much harder challenge to come through. I think it's McLaren's weekend to lose, but of course I could be proved wrong. We'll be back for more tomorrow, 2 practice sessions, and we'll know a lot more about how those cars are stacking up.